For our first story, we have my 30 female student, 18 male, made a super creepy comment. My husband, 35 male, think I am being Lincoln a high school English teacher and have been for a few years. In that time, as a woman, I've been used to teenage boys behaving awkwardly around me sometimes, and pheromones are part of the deal. There have been occasional comments, but generally in the vein of, Miss, so-and-so has a crush on you, or, Miss, would you be so-and-so's Valentine? It's all in good humor, in front of the whole class or a large group, and is well-meaning. My school throws a January ball for seniors, 16 to 18, which is basically an opportunity to celebrate the start of another calendar year. As it's after hours, not every teacher has to attend, and this year I was asked to chaperone. There is no alcohol permitted, but obviously some of them sneak in hip flasks and so on. During this month's ball, 2 students were huddled at a table in the corner of the hall, not dancing, just keeping to themselves. I know them well as problematic students who have difficulties socially, but also perform poorly academically, so they don't fit in with the popular crowd or the nerdy lot. We have some of these every year: poor hygiene, greasy hair, long fingernails, that sort of thing. Immediately I could tell they had been drinking, from the way they spoke and smelled, and asked them to hand over any alcohol they had. One of the boys, call him Stuart, started protesting. He said the following, and I'm 100% sure this is what he actually said. Come on, miss. Don't pretend you won't open that bottle of Bailey's when you get home, feet up in your dressing gown, watching the new TV. Give us a break. Now, as soon as he said this, I felt my heart drop into my stomach and got cold all over. 1. I had just bought a bottle of Bailey's Irish Cream for myself the weekend before the dance. 2. I am in the habit, on nights where I don't have much marking, planning and want to treat myself, of having a bath and watching a movie series in my dressing gown. 3. My husband bought a new television over Christmas. I asked him how he knew those things, and he feigned ignorance, basically saying it was a lucky guess. I was so shaken that I left them, and a short while later they both left. But that night I could barely sleep, and my paranoia kept growing. I simply cannot believe that he could have guessed all 3 those things. 1, maybe, but no way all 3. My husband is away for work currently. I phoned and told him about it, and he basically downplayed my concerns, saying I probably mentioned those things to my class at various points and this student has just remembered it. But I would never mention those things, I just wouldn't, and I'm sure I haven't. I've become more skittish at home when I hear noises. I only live in a small house, but when I arrive home from buying groceries I check every single room and cupboard before I lock the doors. I've also arranged to have the locks changed. When cars stop outside the house I turn all the lights off and peek at them through the blinds. I'm having trouble sleeping. In class, this student is quiet and the same as ever, not completing homework assignments, distracted in class. My husband is growing increasingly exasperated and worried more for my mental health than the possibility this student could somehow know details of my personal life. I mentioned it to my supervisor as well, and she also basically reasoned that I had either misheard what he said, it was a coincidence, or a combination of the 2. What's the play here? I'm seriously freaked out and don't know how to even begin putting this to rest. That's the end of our first post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, do you use social media that the kids could be stalking you on? Do you know every follower and friend on all platforms? These types tend to be chronically online. Our second commenter says, my thing is, why would he say new TV? I could believe if he said, drinking some wine watching TV in your dressing gown, but being extremely specific about your drink of choice and new TV is a little scary. Wine is the trope, TV is what you would think people do, dressing gown is cozy. But those extra added details make it not a coincidence. Our third commenter says, ring camera girl, I'd be weirded out too. For our second story, we have, my 25 female boyfriend 26 male pushed over a child in the mall and I am not sure what to do. Yesterday my boyfriend and I were doing some shopping at a mall downtown and we went to get lunch in the food court. We were going to get food from different places, so he waited in line with me. Then we'd go get his food, then we'd find a table. I was carrying my tray of food and we were walking towards Subway when an elementary school-aged child, maybe 5 or 6, came around a wall running full speed, only a step or 2 away. My boyfriend put his hand out in front of us in a stop motion, and when the kid made contact with his hand, my boyfriend pushed back and knocked the boy to the ground. He fell on the floor and was crying hysterically. The boy's parents came over and the father started pushing my boyfriend into the wall, demanding to know why my boyfriend hit him, and my boyfriend just said their son is old enough to know better than to run full speed in the mall. Because of the yelling between him and the father, we were all asked to leave the mall, and this was extremely embarrassing. I was surprised that my boyfriend really knocked a kid to the ground. He could have sort of put his hands out to brace for impact or something, and I think he took the threat of a running child too seriously, but when I share this, my boyfriend asks what I would do in that situation to protect him. He thinks he was completely reasonable in knocking this child over and that the parents should have taught the boy not to run indoors. To my boyfriend's credit, I was carrying a tray of food and wasn't entirely focused on what he was doing, but I clearly remember his hand going out and then pushing the kid over from the shoulder when the boy made contact with him. My boyfriend says he had his hands out, like if you were catching a dodgeball at the waist, and the boy tripped on his own when he collided, but I swear I saw a push. In that situation, I would have put my arm out a little to have a little stop between me and the kid just to stop a full force collision, or I would have stepped out of the way if I wasn't carrying an awkward tray of food. I feel like my boyfriend could have been a little more gentle with how he handled the situation and then dealt with the parents. My boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years. He's sweet and kind, he treats me well, and he gets along with my family. After this episode, I'm sort of second-guessing the relationship. He has never reacted with anger or gotten into a fight in public before, and he has always been really good when spending time with my younger family members, same age. But now I'm worried he's one running child away from a jail sentence, and I'm wondering that he's somehow hid that he's some sort of hothead for our whole relationship. I do not want to be in a relationship with somebody who is mean to children, but I don't know if I really saw what I saw. That's the end of our second post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, I think the fact that he used an excuse, by saying, he is old enough to know better than to run fast in the mall, etc., to justify his actions tells you that it was a deliberate push rather than him just holding his hand out and it being an accident. IDK, but I think if I held my hand out to stop a kid running into me, and by accident the kid fell back and hurt himself, I would be 100% checking to see he is okay. Apologizing to him, apologizing to his parents, etc. That, and I'd also feel awful. I'd probably be really shaken and upset, and I'd hate myself for it. I definitely wouldn't feel like justifying myself in any way because it'd feel so wrong as he got hurt. But there being like no remorse from him to me shows that it was a deliberate push and that he felt justified in hurting a child. But children do things like this. It's annoying, sure, but it happens, that's life. The fact that he thought he was actually justified is scary. Our second commenter says, I want to preface this with I'm basing this on your assessment that he has always been a kind, caring man who has been good with your young family. So if that is in any way inaccurate, I don't know if I'd say the same. I have less of an issue with a reflexive protective gesture than I do with the doubling down at the end. However, I think calling him an abusive monster is a bit of a stretch. Could it be that he felt embarrassed and exposed in public after reacting to a situation that did not allow time to really consider and became defensive when he was confronted aggressively by the father about it? I would hope he would have felt bad and apologized and said it was just a split-second reaction, but he is human. We react poorly sometimes. What I really wonder here is why you see this as such a big thing. It makes me think that you have noticed other things and maybe ignored or disregarded them. If I were you, I'd really sit down and think about any time you shrugged something off that gave you a bad taste. You might find that he hasn't been as wonderful as you think. If he has, I certainly would keep this in mind, but I don't know that I'd call him a child abuser without further discussion at the very least. That said, I can't help but think you're at least subconsciously noticing other red flags or have disregarded seemingly small things as we do in the beginning of a relationship that may add up to something worthy of concern. Our third commenter says, the way I see this playing out goes like this. Kid comes barreling around the corner. BF puts his hands out to stop the kid, and pushes away. This has a twofold effect. The push was probably stronger than the BF planned it to be. Kids don't weigh anything, and as a result, when the startled child hit the ground, they started crying hysterically. I could see him doubling down with a dumb shit response like, Well, he should have known better, while trying to save face in a moment of panic while being confronted by the parent. Not saying it couldn't have been handled differently. There are 1001 ways to have played this out better. I'm just saying sometimes in a moment of panic, guys say dumb shit in an attempt to save face when they know they did something stupid and are embarrassed about it. For our last story, we have: my girlfriend, 19 female, wants to break up with me, 20 male, because I'm going bald. What can I do to save my hair? I started thinning a lot recently. My girlfriend really loves my hair and was one of the reasons she fell for me. She has been really upset about it and told me to see a dermatologist, and I agreed. The dermatologist said there really wasn't anything she could do at that point aside from steroid injections. My girlfriend was really upset after hearing this and has become distant as if she is contemplating breaking up. We have been dating only for 3 months, but still it hurts to see that. How can I keep my hair? Edit. Thank you for your comments. I've started looking into all the stuff you guys mentioned, like Hair Snap the app, finasteride, and minoxidil. As for my girlfriend, a lot of you said that I should break up with her. For the time being I am going to stick with her. That's the end of our last post. Let's see what the commenters had to say. Our first commenter says, losing your hair's probably inevitable, but you should also lose her, since that's all she cared about. Our second commenter says, honestly, if she is just with you for your hair, you're better off without her. Our third commenter says, get rid of the girlfriend now. She's obviously not the one. That's all for today. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.